Hey, y'all. I've always believed that the shows that we binge and the movies we love are more than just entertainment. They're a window into who we are and who we might become. They're a place to talk about what truly matters. Welcome to Culture First, Democracy Always. I'm Tasha Pierce. Think of me as your favorite auntie who could talk about the latest sci fi flick 1 minute and then get to talking about voter suppression the next. On this podcast, we break down pop culture from the movies and TV shows you love to the books you can't put down to talk about power, talk about freedom, and talk about survival. We'll connect these stories to our current politics and the constant, everyday resistance we all face. Because culture shapes who we are, and democracy is the freedom to be that person. Culture first, democracy always. Hey, y'all, before we get into today's episode, I just want to warn you that the vocal fry is real in this episode. I recorded this episode way back in August when I was just getting over COVID, and you can hear it all through my voice. So pardon the fact that you're going to hear the scratchiness and the just legitimate destruction of my vocal cords from what I was going through with COVID. But I still recorded the episode and I wanted to get it out. So if you guys can bear with the vocal fry, I think you might learn something or get something out of this episode of the Twilight Zone. See y'all later. Hey, and welcome back to Culture First, Democracy Always. And yes, we are continuing our classic TV deep dives arc. And today we're going deeper into the Twilight Zone. Told you we'd be seeing Twilight Zone again. Okay, but this one is another one of its most famous episodes. It's called Eye of the Beholder. Now, last week, we talked about fear turning neighbors into spies. Today, we're talking about something even more fundamental: forced conformity. The idea that a dominant culture has the power to define what is normal or beautiful and then weaponize that definition. Now, this episode focuses on Janet Tyler. Janet is a woman undergoing her 11th and final procedure to fix her severe facial deformity. She is desperate to look normal so she can finally fit in. The question is, what happens when the majority uses its power not just to define the acceptable face, but the acceptable mindset? And as usual, I got a roadmap for us, and here's the plan for today. First, we're going to analyze Janet Tyler's desperation, discuss how a dominant culture tries to medicalize difference, treating nonconformity as a defect that must be cured. Next, we'll analyze the shocking reveal and discuss how using beauty or normalcy is actually a political weapon designed to exclude and enforce social control. Then, we'll connect this fictional tyranny of the majority to real-world political efforts to police thought, history, and identity. Finally, we'll talk about the most crucial resistance: choosing to embrace your own definition of self-worth. Sounds good? I hope so. Let's get to it. Part 1: The medicalization of difference. So let's start in that hospital room with Janet Tyler. We spend the entire segment seeing only her anxiety and hearing the reassuring but cautious voices of the nurses and the doctors. And Janet is desperate. She believes that if this surgery fails, she's going to be exiled, hidden away from the world. And her trauma is real. It's rooted in the constant societal judgment that she faces. But the doctors here are not monsters. No, they are simply the enforcers of the state standard. They're calm, they're professional, and they are certain that what they're doing is necessary for the greater good. They view her difference not as a personal variance, but as a defect that prevents her from contributing to society and makes her unhappy. And this, my friends, is the terrifying core lesson. The political power of a dominant culture is its ability to medicalize difference. It takes a social or ideological variance and declares it a problem that requires state intervention, a cure, a punishment, or an exclusion. And we see this idea being pushed right now, and this is where we need to pay attention. We've got leaders like Donald Trump. He's openly stated that there should be consequences for people expressing anti-capitalist, anti-American, or anti-Christian sentiments. The truly chilling part is that he and his administration get to define what those punishable ideas are. Now, that's not just political preference. That's a direct threat to the First Amendment. It declares that certain thoughts, certain ideas, certain critiques of the status quo are not just wrong, they are punishable defects against the state's mandated ideology. This is anti-constitutional, y'all, and it is profoundly dangerous because it establishes a political standard of thought that must be enforced or cured. It's the same language the doctor uses with Janet. You must conform to the standard or you'll be hidden away. So our little takeaway for part one is that when a dominant culture defines truth, beauty, or loyalty, it's already established a framework for punishing everyone who dares to disagree or look or behave differently. Part 2, Beauty as a Political Weapon. Okay, so we've established that we've got an individual who is so deformed that she makes the people in her community unsettled. Now we come to the shocking visual reveal. Because when the bandages are removed, we see Janet Tyler's face. And Lord have mercy, by most standards, she is stunningly beautiful. But then the camera pans to the doctors and the nurses and the head of the hospital, and all of them would be considered grotesque. They have like distorted pig-like snouts on their faces. They are the majority, and she is the hideous anomaly. And the reveal is the entire point of the episode. The goal of their society isn't to look good, it's to enforce social control. The doctor's faces don't necessarily look that way naturally, because remember, she's trying to have her face reconstructed to look like them. So they're not necessarily the natural faces of these beings. The state has defined that this appearance, this pig-like appearance, is the norm, and they use that to enforce obedience. The moment a standard, whether it's physical or ideological, is enforced by the majority, the standard itself becomes a political weapon. In Janet's society, if you conform, you're safe. If you dissent, or if you physically deviate from that standard, you are not just ugly, you are politically unacceptable. You are a social pariah, and you are isolated or exiled to a nonconformist colony. We see this played out in the real world through aesthetic policing. mandatory loyalty tests. Think about historical efforts to police black people's natural hair or our clothes in the workplace. Laws that dictate what specific version of American history can be taught in school. The specific look, the specific version of history, or the specific ideological commitment becomes the standard of belonging. The standard is never about truth or beauty. It's about power and maintaining the structure. And if the system can define a threat as a deformity, as a defect, it never has to justify its exclusion. So what's one area of public life, maybe in politics, social media, maybe in education, that you've noticed the majority defining a specific type of thought or look as normal or acceptable and punishing anybody who deviates? And I want you to be honest, because I could think of a few examples and it ain't always the ones you think. Share your stories with me. Part 3. The policing of identity. This brings us to the real-world strategy behind forced conformity. Policing identity to silence dissent. When governments start talking about loyalty in workplaces or traditional values, they're building their own version of Janet Tyler's hospital. They're saying, we will define what an acceptable citizen looks like. And if you don't conform, we'll either cure you, we'll ban your book, we'll take away your job, etc., etc. You see what I'm going with. This practice is designed to create a feeling of omnipresent judgment. If you know you might be punished for wearing the wrong clothes, teaching the wrong history, or even having the wrong ideas, what will you do? You'll learn to self-censor, right? You'll police your own speech. You'll stay at home. You'll stop challenging the system publicly. And this is why freedom of thought and freedom of expression is so critical. If the state can successfully define what a quote-unquote true American or true believer looks like, anyone who offers a critique is instantly cast as a political grotesque, a threat to be removed, just like Janet Tyler, right? The greatest defense against this kind of aesthetic and ideological control is multiplicity. It is a diversity of opinion, a diversity of appearance, diversity of belief. It's when there are 100 different definitions of normal, no single standard can be weaponized. And no, this is not something that we only see with our friends on the right. This is increasingly popular with the people on the left. This cancel culture. If you step outside of what the whole group believes, then we have to ostracize you. We have the freedom to all have individual thoughts. The only thing that we have to agree on is protecting the standard that is set forth in the Constitution of democracy. All right, so the episode ends with Janet Tyler being exiled to a colony of people who look like her. Now, at first, this seems like the final tragedy of this episode, but the twist is that when she arrives, she finds an entire community where her deformity is the norm, and she is finally safe and accepted. The final crucial lesson is that your value is not defined by the judgment of the dominant culture. True freedom is refusing to accept the standard that seeks to define, contain, diminish, box you up. The most profound act of self-love is embracing the anomaly that the oppressive system hates. The action you take today is to actively practice the duty of dissent. It's not a choice, it's a duty. That means supporting the people, the art, and the ideas that the system tries to cure or cast out. You will become the beacon for the anomaly. Now, thank you for joining me on this dive into the Twilight Zone. It's essential that we keep using cultural artifacts like this to understand our world. And as a constant reminder, if you want the deeper dive, the historical context on political conformity, aesthetic policing, and the tools to resist ideological loyalty tests, join the community for my Thursday newsletter drop. You can find the link to subscribe in the show notes. You can also connect with me on Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram at Culture First Always, so we can keep building this community together. And per usual, it's culture first, democracy always. I hope this episode gave you a new way to look at the stories around you. It's so easy to feel alone in this work, but remember, there's a whole community of grown folks out here connecting the dots. If you're not already subscribed, my newsletter drops every Thursday and provides a deeper look at these themes. It's like an email from a friend who's just a little obsessed with connecting culture and politics. You can find the link in the show notes. And also, let's connect on social media too. I'm on Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram, and I just love continuing these conversations with you all throughout the week. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to tune in next Wednesday for the next episode. And I'm Tasha Pierce. Culture first, democracy always.